Gen Con is a very long-running convention that goes back to 1968, where they had a meager 100 attendees. Fast forward to today, and you have well over 60,000 people in attendance, making it one of the largest gaming conventions in the world. This was my first year at Gen Con, and I learned a lot from the experience. There's a lot of things I can show you to kind of maybe help your first trip to Gen Con go smoother than mine. That's all coming up right after this. Hey YouTube, this is PeckTech, and although I had a terrific time at Gen Con, I also made a few mistakes that cost me some money and time, and I thought I'd do a video to kind of help you avoid the same mistakes, as well as just talk to you about all the stuff that I really like about Gen Con and maybe give you a reason to go to begin with. You could say the whole experience starts with getting your pass online. This is pretty straightforward, but there are a couple of things that I've never seen before when getting a pass. After you get your pass, you're going to need to pick the events that you want to attend. If you want to play in tournaments or other organized games, you have to get a ticket to ensure you have a place at the table. Gen Con has hundreds of events, and for me the best way to pick the ones you want was to download a spreadsheet and look the events up that you were interested in. Some events do come with an additional cost, and so it's important to keep in mind that the show ticket is just the beginning of your attendance spending. After you're through picking all the events you want, you move them to your wish list. And when the registration finally opens, you submit the list to try to get the seats you want, along with the many thousands of other people that are doing the exact same thing at the exact same time. So a really important thing to remember is to get your wish list set well ahead of registration time. They will add more events all the way up until the week before they open, so it's important to get your core events, the stuff you really want to do the most, locked in first, just to guarantee that you have a seat doing at least a few of the things that you would really like to do. Something that wasn't intuitive to me at first too is that you buy parking through these same events, and there are better parking lots than others. So you want to be sure to submit your wish list for your parking place as well. Your best bet may be to have your tickets mailed to you well ahead of time before the event, but you can also pick them up at will call, and for some reason that's what I chose to do. So the day before Gen Con, I drove through the night from Knoxville to Indianapolis, and I got there very early in the morning. So arriving around 7:30 a.m., my wait time in line was about maybe 4 or 5 minutes. The difference in that line an hour later was enormous. And 2 hours later, the line went all the way out the door and almost down the road to the stadium as well. Okay, so I basically drove all night and I ended up here at Gen Con. I'm here pretty early. It's about 7:15 or so in the morning. As you can see, the registration line's full. Will call back there. It's filling up, but it's apparently not as full as usual. And I'm just trying to figure out where to go in amongst the herds and herds of people. Finally got directions, so at least I kind of know where I'm going now. The line's gotten a bit longer, like about 6 times as long, so I'm glad I got here early. I gotta say, like 50 minutes later, it's amazing the difference in the length of line. I'm almost all the way to the room that I'm starting in, which unfortunately isn't the main exhibit hall, but a little tip for next time. Yeah, I got here way early. Parking really wasn't a big deal. The only real troubles, well, I had a couple of big obstacles. One, there's a chicken or the egg thing. If you don't get your tickets mailed to you, then you have to deal with picking up your stuff at will call before you park. So there might be a little extra expense to parking if you don't just have your stuff sent to you. And the other thing is my credit card was stolen right before the Gen Con housing service went through, and I guess they charged your card, and they saw there was nothing on it. They got in touch with me, but I contacted the hotel directly. They were like, "Oh, it's no big deal." And then the Gen Con housing app saw that the card was still invalid and went ahead and canceled my reservation, which caused me to kind of scramble and look for another hotel, which actually wasn't too bad. It's a big town, so there's a lot of options here. The people are still pouring in. I'm now outside here where my first event starts, and there are just people all over the place. So we've got about 20 minutes to go before my event starts, and all the events start here at about 10 o'clock, so it's about time to go. The hotel that I'd spoken to just the day before did absolutely nothing to help me correct my situation, and we were forced to find another place. This wasn't terribly difficult, but it was incredibly frustrating. One thing I didn't realize about the parking at first was that if you pick your tickets up at will call, the parking lots will give you a little bit of a grace period to go pick up your ticket and then come back and prove that you'd paid for it. Something else to consider, especially if you get one of the parking lots that are a little bit further away, is that they have a shuttle service that runs all day and all night. I think it's all day and all night. It's most of the day and most of the night anyway. These guys do work for tips, and it'd be very nice of you to be sure that you have a little bit of cash on hand to kind of help keep this service going. My first day, because I didn't read the ticket very carefully, I paid for 2 parking spots, one that I ended up with early in the morning and one that I'd prepaid for. Whoops!
Oh, you're such a dish. Right when smelly gonna put you in my face, gonna put you in my belly, in the hut, in the hut, gonna put you in the hut, put you in the hut.
About 60% of what I did at Gen Con was walking, and you need to be ready for that. I actually spent the first couple of weeks before Gen Con walking as much as possible to sort of toughen up those feet and those legs and be ready for the long hike. The convention center is quite large, and if you've got a lot of events that ended up being kind of far away from each other, or you just want to go a little bit further for food but don't feel like going to your car, or maybe you don't feel like waiting on the shuttle so you decide to walk to your car, there's going to be a lot of walking, so just be ready for that.
Roll it now, roll it really good. Roll again, don't make your saving throw. Play with me, let the games begin. Roll it now, roll it really good. Roll again, don't make your saving throw. Play with me, let the games begin.
So when it comes to your schedule, don't try to cram too much into one day. There is tons of stuff to do. Picking more than 2 or 3 scheduled events may be too ambitious. Make sure you leave time to eat and accomplish other things that you want to do. Everybody goes with their own set of goals. For me, I wanted to learn a little bit more about games I already had but don't get to play very often, and maybe pick up a few new ones. If shopping is high on your list, you may want to schedule events in the afternoon. Many new games are released at Gen Con, more so than any other gaming convention. And lots of these games are in very limited quantities, and they're doled out a little bit every day. So if you really want that game, you need to be there when the doors open around 10 o'clock and be ready for the rush. And you still might not get all the games that you wanted. If you have a very large shopping list that contains a lot of items that are in limited supply, plan for a couple of those 10 o'clock rush the door days. If you'd like a small taste of what that's like, I invite you to check out my Forbidden Sky video, where I talked about the whole adventure of buying that game, as well as the game itself.
These doors in a couple minutes, but we're going to be safe and not die. So we are not going to run. No. Trip with our feet. No. Push. No. We are going to hold our badges in the air because we are proud. Yes. And you should have a Saturday or a 4-day. If you don't have one of those, the lovely people on the other side of these doors will make sure you go back. So, badges up.
There are a lot of great things to do at Gen Con, and I, as a miniatures enthusiast, really had an awesome time seeking out and finding all these really cool miniatures that I didn't even know existed. You get to see a lot of stuff up front. A lot of it you can buy. Some of them are Kickstarters that I've already bought that I get to see a little bit in advance, especially Solomon Kane. It was really fun to get and learn to play that a year before I'll be able to even own it.
Wow. Right. So you have failed He has risen. You're fighting his minions at his feet as he walks over you. All right? Mind you, this is 28 millimeter scale, so you're a toe. All right? And so yeah, this is what backers will be getting. This is your game board for that scenario.
Now the reason this is so great is the cultists aren't on Team Evil. They're on Team Them. So, first it starts out good. We got a team of 5. Guys, we got this. He goes insane early. All right, he's pulling tentacles, but we're making good progress on the locations. We can get through this. Then he goes...
If you watch a lot of YouTube videos for people that play games, it was fun to see those guys kind of out in the world. And I got to meet a number of different people and kind of see them at work. I thought that was pretty cool.
How dare you? I got the mind. It's a very casual game, but I loved this.
Of course, I'm a huge podcast fan, and I got to go to a live broadcast of the Tabletop Game Talk podcast. I'm actually in it too, which was a lot of fun. They had a nice crowd there. They gave away a ton of games. All the people you see here walked away with a game. It's a very generous thing that they do every year, and boy, that was a lot of fun. Gen Con also participates in a number of charities. The one that I thought was the most fascinating was this huge card city. So they take all these magic cards and other like collectible card game cards, I guess, and they bend them all up and they make them into these huge structures. And it ends up being this area that sort of grew out and out further as the weekend went on. Then they auction off for the first person to throw some coins into it to try to destroy it. And then eventually the entire crowd throws quarters into the card city and just destroys it.
Coliseum! Coliseum!
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You can do it!
Now, I didn't stick around for the end part, but I think they have kids go through and sift through all the cards and find all the quarters and stuff that are in there. And all of that goes to charity, and apparently they make quite a lot. There's some other charitable events going on too. I didn't get to see all of them. I didn't comprehend exactly what was going on with some of them, but there's a lot of cool stuff. But it's always nice to see a big event like that, taking advantage of the numbers to try to kind of help society out a little bit. Gen Con's also the kind of place to play games and that you know in ways that you've never played them before, like 3D Space Hulk or giant versions of games. I was really fascinated by all the giant versions of regular games that I saw. They were all over. I didn't even get all of them. Somewhere there was a giant King of Tokyo game going that I never found, but there are a lot of other really interesting ones. And that's just my hot take for Gen Con. It was a really fun convention. Part of what made it fun also, of course, was having my local game group. My little group of friends was up there too, and hanging out with them, playing some games in the afternoon, some real casual stuff, as well as like getting to the table and playing some stuff that I don't normally get to play. That was pretty cool. Learned a lot about new games. I loved that. Shopped and bought a lot of games. Loved that too. So despite a few speed bumps along the way, Gen Con was overall a really, really positive experience for me. I look forward to trying it again and maybe taking the wife. I think she'll have a good time.
Take your time. My time is worthless.
Okay guys, thanks so much for watching. That's about it for Gen Con. I've had a good time. I'm about ready to head home. It's about a 6-hour drive, so I'm not really looking forward to that, but I'll definitely be back again. So till next time, follow your bliss, play more games, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.